You ring me then.
We'll have to put it to our people, but I'll ring you either way.
Good. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you for coming along.
Hi, John.
Kenneth, how are you?
Oh, fine, thanks. Fine. Morning.
I was hoping that you'd be in this morning.
Well, what were they doing here?
Not here. Come along to my office.
Oh.
Oh, I shall be going in about half an hour, Miss Lingard. Will you get those letters ready for me to sign?
Right away, Sir John.
Shall I open another window?
No, we'll all freeze.
Now, why don't you get one of those machines that suck in all the air and clean it? Wouldn't have to let in all that nasty, unused fresh air, then.
Really? That's a good idea. Will you look into it for me, Don?
All right, John.
Sorry?
You were going to tell me
Oh, yes.
why the opposition was here this morning.
Well, the opposition is often only the opposition if you oppose them, of course.
Is that so?
Yes, I've decided to go after the M27 contract after all.
Oh, really?
Does that interest you? I thought it would interest you.
Well, it fascinates me. The last time I mentioned it, you changed your mind. You wouldn't hear of it.
Ah, if you remember, we decided...
No. You decided.
What was that?
That we couldn't handle it on top of the other things.
Quite.
Ah. And now we can.
No, not really.
But we're going to.
Yes.
I don't suppose there's any black coffee left, is there?
You know, you are being a bit coy, John.
Yes, and cheerful. That usually means it's all tied up.
By no means.
What isn't?
What isn't what?
Could we start again from the beginning, do you think? The situation, as I saw it, mistily perhaps, but as I saw it, was that in spite of Haggeron's new machine and the lowest tender ever, you decided we were too committed to go after the M27.
So we are, if we go it alone.
Oh, I see.
But we're not the only people heavily committed who haven't got sufficient elbow room to go for part of a contract of that size.
You mean split the contract?
Oh, okay. Polite name is joint venture.
And that's why Infeld's people were here, was it?
More or less. I don't think it will be as straightforward as we would hope after Straker's experience with us.
Are they interested?
Tentatively.
On what basis?
Oh, yet to be worked out.
Well, who wants it most, us or them?
Well, neither of us is saying. It's at the what an interesting idea stage. But I'm sure that you and Don will be able to keep it warm while I'm away.
Away?
Yes, I've prepared the ground for a meeting early next week. Now, whether they're still keen or not, that meeting has got to take place. You've nothing much else to do but keep them warm till then. Everything else is prepared. Miss Lingard?
Yes, Sir John.
I'll sign those letters in your office. There's no need to bring them in.
May I ask where you're going?
Oh, a private matter. I'm taking a little holiday. I think I can fit in 4 days before it starts getting hectic again. And it's important to me that I do. I've left my address with Miss Lingard, but I'd prefer it if you didn't get after me unless it's really essential. I'll see you early next week.
Oh, have a nice time.
Thank you.
I suppose the personal matter will turn out to be Susan Weldon, as usual, won't it?
Miss Weldon?
In Mr. Townley's day and your predecessors, it seemed responsibilities were allowed to overlap quite considerably. Even to the extent it would seem of going beyond some people's executive terms of reference.
That does happen in small offices. People tend to do the work that has to be done.
Oh, quite. In the normal course of events, it wouldn't be very important.
Why would it be important in this case?
Miss Weldon's case is slightly different, isn't it?
Is it?
She has what one might call a special relationship with a member of the board.
So it is said.
Which has already been the subject of a security inquiry.
And which came to nothing.
However, we assume that the relationship still continues. And we must also assume what is generally held to be common opinion, that Sir John Wilder's main interest in everything he does is one of self-advancement, for which he's prepared to use any ends, even, if necessary, one might imagine, a mistress with access to classified information.
You realize that such a suggestion without supporting evidence would be slanderous, even though security appears to be a law unto itself these days.
No, I'm not making the suggestion that it would. I'm merely suggesting that it might be better for all concerned if it were quite obvious that he couldn't.
And how would you propose to do that?
The obvious way would be for Miss Weldon to be transferred.
No, I can't possibly agree to that without supporting evidence. It'd be too damaging to her to ask for her transfer on suspicion alone, particularly as there has already been a security investigation which produced nothing.
Now, the investigation was dropped. It wasn't actually carried to a point where it could have any result.
What exactly do you want to do, Sefton?
If she's to remain here, I think for the time being she should be withheld from classified information.
That could be equally damaging.
Possibly. But I think it is a thing that the department will have to do.
We are the department, Sefton. Everything else here is furniture.
Then what we will have to do.
You said for the time being?
Until either, if necessary, a further security check has revealed nothing, or until she gives us an assurance that her relationship with Sir John Wilder has come to an end.
Have you told her about this?
Well, I've mentioned some of it in so many words. I felt I should tell you first.
Very kind of you. Very well, Sefton. I suppose you must do what you obviously know to be your duty.
Oh, Bly Construction, this is the National Export Board. Could I speak to Sir John Wilder, please? He's left for where?
What are you smiling for?
Oh, I was just wondering whether you'll ever learn to really enjoy a holiday. The idea is to relax.
You think I'm not enjoying this one?
I don't think you really know why you're here.
Oh, yes, I do. I wanted to talk to you.
And you haven't.
No.
Perhaps it would help if we were to get drunk first.
Yes? Perhaps it would.
We'd still have to talk about it, though, wouldn't we?
Do you want to?
No. That doesn't alter the fact that we'll have to. What do you want me to tell you?
Nothing.
Oh, no, that's not fair. Then it'll never really be over and done with, will it?
Is it over and done with?
Yes.
Because Haggerton is in Africa and you may never see him again. Or because under any circumstances it is really over and done with.
Because under any circumstances it is really over and done with.
How do I know that? How do you know that? How do I know that when you're alone or when you're even with me that you're not thinking about him and wishing that you could see him again? I don't know that.
No. But
No, or never will now.
well, I can't prove it to you.
Did you love him?
I thought so.
And?
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 John, what do you want me to tell you?
Nothing.
John, for a long time I was so much on my own. You were away so much.
That's not a good enough excuse.
It is not an excuse. What did you expect me to do, John? Go on loving you even though you were never there?
Yes.
Even though you didn't seem to want me at all? Even though your whole life was going further and further away from me? So that in the end I seemed to have nothing to do with you or with any...
Yes, I think I did.
Even though you never told me that was what you wanted? John, how do I know that when you're with me, or even when you're on your own, that you're not thinking of somebody else?
We don't know.
I'm sorry.
Are you?
Yes. I suppose that's the only thing I can say for myself. If I didn't really love you, I wouldn't be sorry.
Perhaps it's just that marriage is a destructive institution. When I first knew you, when we were first married.
Yes. You know, I often wonder if it ever occurs to anybody to wonder what John, Sir John Wilder was like at 35.
You remember.
You know, I often think that the only reason you really want other women is to prove to yourself that time is not rushing past quite as fast as you think it is. And that if I can just hang on long enough, you realize that it rushes past just as quickly for me. And if that's important to you, then one day you might very well be able to give the others up.
Yes. It's possible. It's quite possible.
Come on. I'll get dressed. Then you can watch me try and remember how to ski.
Are you familiar with this, sir?
Yes, I have read it, thank you.
If we hadn't got ourselves into the position where we were going it alone on the North African project, we wouldn't have to split the contract with Infels.
Ah, that's not the reason, actually.
Excuse me if I seem to be out of touch with modern business methods.
Well, we secured the North African contract. We don't know yet that we are going to get any of the M27 contract. But at least we stand a reasonable chance of getting some of it. I should have thought that would have pleased you to some extent.
Well, it pleases me less than getting the whole contract.
Oh, it's very doubtful if that was on the cards at any time.
Have you been to see Sam Bell at Infels?
John asked me to keep it warm.
How interested are they?
Reasonably, yes, I should say.
Of course, Infels might not be the best deal we could do. No, it might be a good idea to sound out a few other people. Then if we can't come to terms with Infels, we won't have to waste so much time looking around for somebody else.
I've already done that.
Oh, have you? What happened?
Nothing. Of the ones we know are tendering, 2 are already in a joint venture. ABD are after the whole hog. And you know how Orms feel about John.
So if Infels don't agree, we are not in at all.
That's about the size of it.
Yes. I see.
I don't think I understand you.
I don't know how I can make it any clearer to you, Miss Weldon. We have a little matter of security on our hands.
Security? There's never been any security involved at all.
There was the security investigation. I think I can find it here.
Set up for a purely commercial motive by someone who had a vested...
Oh, surely, Miss Weldon. Security wouldn't lend itself to commercial juggling.
Which is why it was withdrawn before it was even completed.
However, there was an investigation.
Look, I have just explained to you.
As you see it.
As it was. There was nothing to investigate.
A conclusion that is hardly reliable if the investigation was never completed.
For I am telling you there was nothing to investigate.
That, of course, is the purpose of security, isn't it, Miss Weldon, wouldn't you say? I mean, you tell me that there's nothing to investigate. I have only your word for it. If you were lying, you might well tell me exactly the same thing. Where security is of great help to both of us is that if you tell me that there's nothing to investigate and security backs you up, then we're all assured.
You won't accept my word.
Of course I would accept your word, Miss Weldon, in the normal course of events. But security, by its very definition, isn't in the normal course of events. That's what makes it all so very difficult.
I don't think you are finding it difficult, are you?
I am, I can assure you, in a very difficult position, Miss Weldon. This is my department, and I'm responsible. To be responsible, I have to know. I have to be sure in my own mind. That's the least that's expected of me of my superiors. The position at the moment is, Miss Weldon, that I don't know.
Mr. Townley...
I am not Mr. Townley.
Mr. Townley was perfectly prepared to accept the matter in the way that it was resolved.
Except, of course, that it was never resolved.
Because there was nothing to resolve. And he was also prepared to defend his colleagues against these outside attacks. Except, of course, in those days they did come from outside.
Miss Weldon, to remain in the realm of fact, you have been having, if I may put it bluntly, an affair with a member of this board, Sir John Wilder, who, apart from anything else, happens to be married. But, of course, that doesn't concern us here, does it?
Then why did you mention it?
Because it's unlikely that our little problem will be resolved by your marrying him. Will it?
You're being very frank. It's just as well we don't have a tape recorder listening in, isn't it?
But we may take it there isn't. So I really don't know what to suggest, Miss Weldon, beyond our three alternatives.
3?
Either a further security check, for all our sakes, yours as much as anyone's, to dispose, or otherwise, of the possibility of the existence of risk.
Or
an assurance, rigidly adhered to, that you are no longer involved in other than a professional way with Sir John Wilder. This would seem to me, in the circumstances, to be fair.
Fair?
In a situation where none of us have very much in the way of alternatives. And perhaps you would be good enough to let me know.
You said there were 3.
I should have thought that was obvious. If I found myself in a situation where what I wanted to do ran counter to what I should do, I should think it my duty, out of consideration to others, to offer my resignation. I'm at your disposal, Miss Weldon, should you wish to discuss the matter further.
Could you give me an outside line, please?
I think you'd better deal with all your accumulated mail.
Yes, they're mostly bills, I'm afraid. I shall see to them this morning. You going to be home tonight?
Yes?
Where's the car?
Well, I'll see you this evening.
Betty, when did this arrive?
The day you left, madam. It came with the midday post.
Thank you.
Oh, good morning. Did you have a nice holiday?
Yes. Very nice, thank you. Is Mr. Henderson in?
Yes. Shall I tell him?
No, I'll look at the mail first, then I'll give him a buzz.
Well, I dealt with all the ordinary stuff.
Fine.
And some gentlemen are coming this morning from Infeld's.
What time?
At 10. They'll be here any minute.
That's back to work with a vengeance, isn't it? Who, organised it?
Mr. Kenneth, I believe.
Right, thank you, Miss Lingard.
And, Sir John, there have been several calls from the National Export Board.
What were they about, did they say?
No. It was Miss Weldon. She didn't say what it was about. She wanted to speak to you personally.
Oh, well, tell her if she rings again that I'm a bit tied up at the moment, that I'll get in touch with her as soon as possible.
Yes, of course.
Oh, come in, Don.
Ah, all bronzed and fit, I've no doubt. Not sure I dare come and stand near you.
Yes?
Mr. Bell of Infeld's is here, Sir John. He's with Mr. Kenneth.
Oh, ask them to come along, will you? Why has Kenneth fixed this meeting so soon, Don, do you know?
Oh, convenience, I think. They wanted to start talking about it as soon as possible.
Would he have let it stand even if I didn't come back?
I've no idea. But you did say you would be back today.
Yes. How much do you think Infelds know about the Straker business?
Oh, not a great deal, I gather. They know there was a split-up, but I don't think Billy Straker's putting out too much until he finds out how we come out of it. Still, it'll probably make Infelds try and box Clever.
Quite. Who's coming along this morning besides Bell?
Clavering and their projects manager. Hello, John. Oh, you're looking well.
I feel fine. Hello, Sam.
I hear you've had a holiday, lucky man.
Yes, well, I thought I'd better get one in before we met. I knew you'd be after ruining my health.
I wouldn't say that.
Well, when your people come along, we'll go into the boardroom. I'll get Miss Lingard to organise some coffee.
Oh, cigarettes, sir?
Thank you.
John, I wonder if I could just have a word with you.
Yes?
Mr. Clavering is here, Sir John. He's with his project.
Oh, fine. Ask them to come in, will you? And, Miss Lingard, will you organise some coffee?
You've
John.
met Bill Clavering, of course. And this is our new projects manager, Frank Haggerton. I think you know each other.
How are you, Sir John?
But that's hardly the point, is it?
I think it is.
At this stage of discussions...
I see no reason why we shouldn't see what we're up against right from the very beginning. Have you actually been and had a look at that stretch?
No, I haven't.
Well, I have.
I usually leave it to my technical people to deal with that sort of thing.
Yes, surely the technical details can wait
If we're going to use the new method, how do you think you're going to be able to settle the price until you know how you're going to do the most difficult bit? You've seen that stretch on the plans.
Yes, I have seen the plans. I gather that there's no excessive difficulty.
That stretch is 7 miles long. Now, whatever costings you decide on here, or whenever Sir John is going to decide them, will stand or fall by knowing exactly how you tackle that bit. If you make a mistake with that bit, there won't be a penny profit in it, for anybody.
Well, Frank, what do you have in mind for that stretch?
Well, I should think we'd have to swamp shoot for about 3 miles of it. That won't be too difficult. Then we'll lay 3 feet of hardcore over the peat and run the vibrator over it. What would you think about that?
Well, I leave that to my technical
people. You
people.
do know what swamp shooting is, I take it.
This is a preliminary meeting to decide whether we are or we are not.
We hardly seem to know just what it is we're discussing. Now, if you like, we'll go and measure it together by slack chaining. You do know what slack chaining is, I suppose.
Gentlemen, I don't think this
Will you
arguing
ring
is going to
Mr.
get us
Hall
anywhere.
at this number as soon as possible, please?
Look, surely the wisest thing...
I do know what slack chaining is.
It probably is the key section of the whole roadway, John.
Now, I realize I'm only here in an advisory capacity.
Then perhaps it would be better if you shut up till we ask for your advice.
But I certainly would not advise my company to enter into any form of joint venture until that point was settled, to the complete agreement of both parties.
Yes?
Mr. Longfellow is here to see you, Sir John. He says it's very urgent.
Oh, thank you. I'm afraid you'll have to excuse me for a few minutes, gentlemen. Don, I want you in on this.
Oh, well, excuse me.
Understand, Sir John.
When you say lay 3 feet of hardcore, do you mean we'd repeat the process until the specified amount of hardcore is pushed down?
How did he get it here?
I've no idea.
Did you know he was coming?
No, of course I didn't, John.
Did Kenneth?
No, I'm sure he didn't.
Why isn't he in Africa? Have we had his resignation?
I'm afraid I have no idea.
Well, find out for me. If we've had a letter of resignation, where is it? Why wasn't I told?
Johnny's here. A letter of resignation isn't going to make much difference, is it? I mean, he's obviously not working for us.
Look, Don, get in there, hold the fort. Tell Kenneth to come out here, quickly.
Right. John.
Huh? Miss Lingard.
Yes, Sir John.
Have we had a letter of resignation from Mr. Haggadan in Africa?
Well, not that I've seen, Sir John.
Would you ring my wife and ask her to come and join me for lunch? Ask her to pick me up here.
Right away. Oh, the National Export Board have rung again.
What do they want?
It was Miss Weldon. I told her I didn't think you were
All
back
right.
yet. She said it was very urgent.
All right, I look after it.
Well, first thing I knew was when Sam Bell told me this morning. I tried to warn you.
Get rid of them, Kenneth. Politely, if you must, but get rid of them. I'm going to get in touch with Arthur Parrott of ABD.
Well, there's no point. I've already sounded them out. You did ask me to keep it warm. I think the Straker business has worried them.
And?
Well, as far as they're concerned, a joint venture just isn't on.
Oh.
Nor is it with Kells, Ormes, or Darramores.
Well, you have been around, haven't you?
Well, lunch here, drink there.
Nor is it on with Infels, as far as we're concerned.
As far as you're concerned.
As far as we're concerned.
Well, I haven't got quite the same emotional involvement.
Emotion has nothing to do with it. I am not going to do business with him. You saw what he was trying to do. He wants to get even. And he'll bend Blythe over backwards to get his own back.
Well, in fact, he's quite right about that stretch.
For heaven's sake, Kenneth. Do you think I'm going to sit down at a table and do business with Frank Haggadan? You must be naive as Sam Bell, obviously is.
John, you... Look, I know how you feel. But when it comes to the point, this is a simple business transaction.
Oh, for heaven's sake, Kenneth, what do you mean, simple? Do you know why Bell brought him into this?
Well, possibly because he's a damn good projects manager.
No, he knows. For God's sake, everybody knows. He knows damn well if there's one man under the sun that'll push me till my back's right up against the wall, that man is Frank Haggerdan.
He doesn't have to try and push you.
This is our first meeting with infels. How does it end? In a row. A row about what? Some stupid technical detail.
Well, it's not an unimportant detail.
Which could well be settled when we know whether we're going to have a joint venture or not. If it starts like this, how's it going to go on? It'll end in open bloody warfare before we get a skip of dirt out of the ground. And that sort of thing costs money.
Well, as I said, I'm not involved, emotionally or otherwise. I might just as well deal with Haggerdan as anybody. And since he's got no involvement with me, he can't push me any more than anyone else can.
No.
John, I'm quite certain.
Wind it up,
I am quite certain we can make a deal with him.
No, wind it up.
I'd better get back to them.
I am not doing business with them if Frank Haggerdan's in on it. With them or any other company.
All right, John.
Wait a minute. I'll come and do it myself.
Well, try and make it polite, John. This is only a business meeting.
Well, I suppose really it's a matter of which comes first. The chicken or the egg? Fundamental technicalities or broad principles? Which do we sort out? Have you played much golf lately?
Is that the section
Ah.
Oh, gentlemen, I must apologize. Something cropped up.
That's all right, John.
However, I think that Mr. Haggerdan may probably be right. It's obviously something that we should look into. It's obviously something of great importance that we should take into account. I think that it would be better if we postpone this meeting till we've gone over it.
I think it can be done after we've agreed the broad principles, John.
No. For my part, I'd like to know more about it. We must thank Mr. Haggerdan for bringing it to our notice.
What in England?
In Blythe, this very morning.
Does Pamela know he's back?
I've no idea.
Shouldn't somebody tell her?
Oh, I've no doubt John will do that.
How did he take it?
Oh, not too well, really. Naturally enough, I suppose. Must have been a hell of a shock.
Do you think it's going to mean more trouble?
Oh, well, it is going to mean trouble, yes, but whether it's going to be trouble between John and Pamela, I've no idea.
More trouble for who, then?
Me, I fully expect.
Ah, there you are, Ken. I've just had a drink with Sam Bell. He tells me that it looks as though you and he have come to an agreement over the infel business. Good work, Ken. Let me buy you a drink. Waiter.
John?
Hmm?
You're very quiet.
Yes, I was thinking about something. I'm sorry.
Is it that you've heard Frank Haggerdan is back in England?
How do you know that?
Oh, I got a letter from him. Arrived when we were away.
Letter? What did he want?
Just to tell me that he was coming back and wanted to see me again.
Did he? Are you going to?
Don't be absurd.
Mm.
How did you know he was back?
I saw him this morning in my office.
In your office?
He's joined the opposition. I think perhaps you ought to see him again. Don't you think you dare?
John, please, I don't want to see him again. It's all over. We've been in
Look, it
talks.
might be all over if he hadn't come back. Now he'll do everything he can to see you. Any way he can. He'll turn up at a cocktail party and he'll be there. You'll be having lunch in a restaurant with somebody and there you'll be. Get it over and done with.
For what point?
Tell him, to his face, once and for all, that it's finished.
I can write.
No, no. A letter doesn't work. He'll still think if he can just see you. Tell him, to his face. Leave no doubt in his mind.
You want me to do this, do you?
I want him to know. It's about time we tied up all the loose ends.
All right. When?
As soon as possible. Perhaps make it this evening. I'm afraid I won't be able to come home early.
I see.
No. Something's cropped up that I have to do something about. Another loose end.
Thank you. You could have rung me.
I told you.
No, before you went away.
It happened on the spur of the moment.
Oh, no.
I saw no point.
Oh, for God's sake, John, let's at least be honest with one another, please. You went with Pamela, didn't you?
Yes. She is my wife. It seems to me perfectly normal that if I were...
Isn't it? It's all changed.
Why should you think that?
We were disturbed by it. All that business between her and Frank Haggerton. And you were surprised that you were disturbed by it. You told me.
Possibly I was.
Yes, you were. And it changed you. Didn't it? Oh, John, it did change you. It really just all breaking apart. Just falling away under my feet.
Perhaps it would be better if we were...
Yes, that might be the best idea. You're quite right.
You don't even know what I was going to say.
Well, you were going to say it might be a good idea if we were to give it a rest for a while and not see one another.
I was going to say that perhaps it would be better if we left that for the moment and got back to the real reasons I came round here.
Were you? What did you come round here for? I suppose that is the point, isn't it?
Susan.
I love you. What was it you came round for, then?
You told me that Kemp had been making difficulties.
Oh, yes.
Have you done anything about it?
I tried to phone you.
Do you think that it is any easier for me? Do you think that my position is so simple and straightforward, all I have to do is choose between one or the other, to make a simple decision and go away? Do you think it would be easier for me just never to see you again? Do you think it would be simple for me just to destroy her whole life, and part of mine? Or you? When you say to me, I love you, do you think I can just... Oh, for God's sake, why do you all think that I've got all the answers? What exactly did Kemp say to you?
He threatened to reopen the security case.
Was it just a threat?
No, I don't think it was.
Well, there's not much we can do about it till we know precisely how he's going to approach it.
No. And I don't think it'll come to anything.
But you said on the phone...
Well, he also said that he wouldn't reopen the case if I could give him an assurance that my affair with Sir John Wilder was over.
Hello. Hi.
How are you? Fine. And you?
Fine.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I get you a drink?
Yes.
Brandy?
Yes, thank you.
Brandy.
How was Africa?
Dull.
Why did you leave? Oh, yes, of course, if it was dull.
I was offered a better job.
Yes, John told me.
Yes, I saw him this morning.
Yes. I always thought you said you'd go back to Italy if you packed up here.
I found out after all I didn't want to. I prefer to be back here. missed you. I'm glad you came.
John asked me to.
John?
Yes, he said I should.
Why?
Frank?
I see.
No. No, it's much more difficult than he thinks, much more complicated.
You were to tell me that it's all over.
Yes.
And is it?
Yes.
Then tell me. Tell me.
It's over, Frank.
Why?
Please, let's not go into all this now.
You suddenly found you do in fact love him.
I've always loved him, Frank.
But for a little while you were in love with me.
Yes, I suppose that was it.
But not anymore.
Look, Frank, please, I can't see you again.
Oh,
This
for
is the
God's
last...
sake.
I'd rather you didn't write to me, or... Well, I'd rather you didn't.
We should have gone away, shouldn't we? In the beginning, I mean. Do you want another drink?
Well, I haven't.
Oh, no. You could have written to me.
No.
I only came back because of you.
Please, Frank.
Because I knew that while I was there or in Italy, there wasn't the slightest chance of ever seeing you again.
No, Frank. I'm not going to leave him.
I see.
So?
So, nothing.
No. Look, you'll find somebody...
Oh, yes.
Better go.
Okay.
Thanks for the drink.
Pleasure. Goodbye, then.
Bye.
Have you seen this?
Yes, John. As a matter of fact, I have.
So Bell thinks the Infell deal is still on?
Really?
Yes. Miss Lingard,
Yes, Sir John.
would you ask Mr. Kenneth to come along here, please?
Yes, Sir John.
Where would he get that idea from, Don? Do you know?
Well, John, I think...
What?
Well, I think that Ken rather took the view that at the last meeting you were a bit overwrought and...
That I was what?
Well, I think he thought the surprise of seeing Haggerton again, without any warning. I think he felt that if you left it for a couple of days, you might look at it another way.
Really?
Yes, I think he thought it best to keep it warm until you came to a decision.
And his idea of keeping it warm is to clinch the deal.
Well, I don't know that it's actually clinched.
Well, if you don't know whether it's clinched or not, and I don't know whether it's clinched or not, it seems to me that the only person in this company who knows what's going on is Mr. Kenneth Bligh. Doesn't it? Yes?
Mr. Kenneth, sir.
Right. All right, Don.
Yes. Oh, John. Haggerton's letter of resignation has turned up. He sent it to the African office. They weren't too speedy about sending it on.
Yes, that's another office that wants a boot where the spine stops.
Morning, John. Well, excuse me. I have to dash off. I've got to catch an early grave.
Don tells me that you think that I've been a bit overwrought.
I always think you're overwrought, John. It's part of your charm.
And you imagine that seems to give you the right.
To clinch the Infell deal, no. The fact that I'm joint managing director did.
Really? Without consultation?
If it's a matter of the company's interest, yes.
You do you?
Yes, John, I do. And before we go on to have a row, let's get two things perfectly plain. In the first place, I think Bligh's could do with this Infell deal. And quite apart from its value to the company. It might not be a bad idea to regain a bit of prestige in the industry by showing that the Straker business is just an isolated incident and that we can carry a business relationship through to the end. You never know when we might need another.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, I mean, I know exactly how you felt when Haggerton walked in here. You have my complete sympathy. But in matters of company policy, decided beforehand and agreed upon, where your course of action is changed by purely personal and emotional reasons, having no bearing whatever on the company, then as joint managing director, I take over. In other words, if you go sick on the company, my job is to continue with the agreed policy, as I see it.
I told you that I wouldn't deal with him.
You don't have to.
Because you're taking over.
Well, I think it might be best if I did. But even if you go on, you still won't have to deal with Haggerton. You see, you always see things from your point of view, John. Sam Bell wants this deal, probably, as it turns out, just as much as we do. He saw he'd put his foot in it by bringing Haggerton into it. He thought it might be a good idea just to keep the bargaining keen. But when he saw it was likely to muck up the whole thing, well, he doesn't want open, bloody warfare either. He's got money to lose, too.
So he's taken Haggerton off it?
Sam phoned me this morning. Actually, he got the feeling that Mr. Haggerton might be moving again. He didn't say why.
Okay. Okay, you deal with it.
All right. I'll keep you posted.
Fine. Oh, you have come on a lot, Kenneth, haven't you?
It's been an education.
I'm afraid I don't quite follow you, Mr. Gillingham.
I rather think you do, Sefton.
But I understood that we'd agreed on a certain line...
Not agreed. We discussed it, if you remember.
Nevertheless, sir, I must insist that you led me to believe that I should continue in the way I felt I should.
Then let's take it that I've changed my mind. It's quite simple. I don't want my department to have the security people popping in and out, upsetting everything, unless there's positive and irrefutable evidence that there's a reason for them being here.
But I could...
Have you positive and irrefutable evidence that anything is happening or has happened in this department which is capable of endangering the well-being of the state?
Not evidence as such, no.
Then I think perhaps we should be very careful we don't use officers of security as a form of persecution.
Surely you're not suggesting that...
Oh, no, I don't think you would be aware of it, Sefton. But to use security officers without great care can, I'm afraid, be rather like kicking mud at a wall. It sticks where it hits.
Nevertheless...
Sefton, let me make myself very plain. I don't want the security boys in here twice. Where they call too often, they tend to think they belong, and so do other people. If, however, any positive evidence should come to light, now or in the future...
I see, sir. Very well, Mr. Gillingham.
Thank you, Sefton. I felt sure you'd see it my way.
I'll let you know how it goes.
Well, that would be very nice.
I think it's more or less sewn up.
Yes?
Lady Wilder is here, Sir John.
Oh, ask her to come in, will you? Very well. I leave it all in your capable hands.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
Hello, Pamela.
Hello, Kenneth. Well, lunch with you twice in 2 days. I am honored. You must have tied up every loose end there is.
Yes, more or less.
Are you lunching with us too, Kenneth?
Ah, no, I'm having lunch with Sam Bell and Infeld's lawyers. Yes, in fact, I must be on my way now. I'll drop in late this afternoon to see you.
Fine.
Goodbye, Pamela.
Goodbye, Kenneth.
I thought you weren't going in with Infelds.
Oh, Kenneth has decided that we are.
Oh. You know, you better watch out. You may have another Castle Bly on your hands.
Yes. There's always a loose end to tie up somewhere. Come on. Let's go and have some lunch.